Zara pressed her scaled palm against the cool metal wall of the observation deck. Her purple eyes tracked the strange vessel that had appeared in their star system 3 days ago. The ship was unlike anything her people had ever seen, crude and primitive, yet somehow it had traveled across the void between stars. The Kalari High Council had been in emergency session since the aliens' first signal reached their homeworld. Zara served as a junior xenobiologist on the research station orbiting their second moon. Her job was to study any signs of alien life, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. The alien ship called itself Endeavor, and its crew claimed to be human explorers from a distant world called Earth. They spoke of peace and friendship. But the Kalari had learned to be cautious. The galaxy was filled with predator species who used such words to hide their true intentions. Captain Lisa Martinez had requested permission to dock with their station. The human woman spoke, their language through some kind of translation device. Her voice was calm and measured, but there was something else beneath the surface, something that made Zara's skin tingle with anticipation. The docking bay doors hissed open, and Zara watched from behind reinforced glass as the human shuttle entered their station. The craft was small and sleek, but its hull bore scars from what looked like weapon impacts. These humans had seen battle. 3 figures emerged from the shuttle, and Zara's breath caught in her throat. The humans were taller than her people, standing nearly 7 feet in height. Their skin was a pale, peachy color, and they moved with a fluid grace that reminded her of apex predators. The female, who must be Captain Martinez, wore a dark blue uniform with various symbols and patches. Her hair was black and pulled back in a tight bun. Her eyes swept the docking bay with the calculating gaze of someone who had faced danger. Many times behind her walked 2 males. The first was broad-shouldered with sandy brown hair and green eyes. He carried himself like a warrior, and his hand rested casually near what looked like a weapon. The second was leaner with dark skin and intelligent brown eyes that seemed to take in every detail of their surroundings, but it was the fourth human who made Zara step closer to the glass. A young male with auburn hair and piercing blue eyes. He wore the same uniform as the others, but something about him was different. He moved with purpose, but also with a strange kind of gentleness that she had never seen in a soldier. The human party was escorted through the station's corridors by a full guard detail. Zara followed at a distance, using her security clearance to track their progress. They were taken to the main conference room where the station commander would meet with them. Hours passed, and Zara found herself unable to concentrate on her work. She kept thinking about the humans, especially the young soldier with the blue eyes. There was something in his expression that spoke of both strength and compassion. Late that evening, Zara was working alone in her laboratory when the door chimed. She looked up to see the auburn-haired human standing in her doorway. He was alone and no longer wore his uniform jacket. "Excuse me," he said in accented Kalari. "I hope I am not disturbing you. I am Danny Collins from the human vessel." Zara's hearts, both of them, began to race. How had he learned their language so quickly? And why was he here? "Alone, you should not be wandering the station unescorted," she managed to say. "I could call security." Danny raised his hands in what she assumed was a peaceful gesture. "Please do not. I wanted to speak with someone about your people, your culture, Captain. Martinez is handling the political discussions, but I am curious about who you really are." Something in his tone made her pause. Most species that visited Kalari space were interested in their technology or their resources. Few cared about their culture or their daily lives. "What do you want to know?" she asked, stepping closer. Everything he said with a smile that transformed his entire face. "Tell me about your world, your people. What makes you happy? What frightens you? I have traveled to many worlds, but I have never met anyone quite like your species." For the next several hours they talked. Danny asked questions about Kalari art, music, and philosophy. He listened intently to her explanations and asked follow-up questions that showed he was truly trying to understand. In return, he told her about Earth, about humans, and about his own journey among the stars. He spoke of his homeworld with such love that Zara felt a pang of longing. She had never left her star system, and suddenly the universe seemed vast and full of possibilities. As the station cycled into its sleep period, Danny stood to leave. "Thank you," He said, "I have learned more tonight than in all my years of study." "Wait," Zara said before she could stop herself. "Why did you come here? To my lab, I mean." Danny paused at the doorway. "Because you were watching us when we arrived. I could see you behind the glass and you looked curious, not afraid. Most people fear what they do not understand, but you seem to want to learn." The next day brought disturbing news. Long-range sensors had detected a Vorthon warfleet approaching their system. The Vorthons were a violent species known for enslaving weaker civilizations. They had been expanding their territory for decades, and the Kalari had long feared this day would come. The human ship Endeavor was fast, but it could not outrun an entire fleet. Captain Martinez requested an emergency meeting with the Kalari High Council. Zara watched the proceedings from the observation gallery. Danny stood beside his captain as she addressed the council. The human woman's words were direct and honest. "We cannot defeat a Vorthon fleet in open combat," she said. "But we will not abandon you to face them alone. Earth has faced similar threats, and we have learned that sometimes survival requires unconventional thinking." She outlined a plan that was both brilliant and terrifying. The human ship would serve as a decoy, drawing the Vorthon fleet away from the Kalari homeworld. Meanwhile, selected Kalari civilians would be evacuated to hidden colonies in distant systems. It was a desperate gambit that would likely result in the destruction of the human vessel. Danny and his crewmates were volunteering to die for people they had just met. The council debated for hours while the Vorthon fleet drew closer. Finally, they agreed to the human plan. Evacuation ships began loading immediately, with priority given to young Kalari who could continue their species among the stars. Zara found herself assigned to one of the evacuation vessels. She tried to focus on her duties, but her thoughts kept returning to Danny. The human soldier was going to sacrifice himself for her people, and she might never see him again. On the final night before the Vorthon arrival, Zara made a decision that would change her life forever. She slipped away from the evacuation ship and made her way to the docking bay where Endeavor waited. Danny was alone on the observation deck, staring out at the stars. He turned when she approached, and his expression shifted from surprise to something deeper. "You should be with the evacuation fleet," he said. "I should," she agreed. "But I am not going." Danny stepped closer. "Why?" "Because someone needs to document what happens here. If your plan succeeds, if you somehow survive, someone should record the story of how humans saved the Kalari. It was only partially true." The real reason was something she could barely admit to herself. In the few days since meeting Danny, she had begun to care for him in a way that transcended species barriers. Danny was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. "I would be honored to have you witness our final battle." The next morning, the Vorthon fleet arrived in force, over 200 ships bristling with weapons. They sent the standard surrender demand, which the Kalari ignored. Captain Martinez gave the order, and Endeavor launched from the station. The small human ship accelerated toward the massive alien fleet, broadcasting messages of defiance and challenge. As planned, the Vorthons took the bait. Their ships turned to pursue the fleeing human vessel. The evacuation fleet slipped away in the opposite direction, carrying most of Zara's people to safety. Zara stood on Endeavor's bridge as the Vorthon ships closed in. Danny worked at a tactical station, his fingers flying over alien controls. The entire crew moved with practiced efficiency, preparing for a battle they could not win. But Captain Martinez had one more surprise. The human ship suddenly changed course, diving toward the system's star. Danny explained that Earth had discovered something about Vorthons. They feared solar radiation more than most species. What followed was a deadly game of cat and mouse played out in the corona of a star. The human ship used its superior maneuverability to stay just ahead of the Vorthon fleet, leading them deeper into the stellar furnace. One by one, Vorthon ships began to fail their crews, unable to withstand the intense radiation. The human vessel itself was taking damage, but somehow it continued to function. In the end, only 3 Vorthon ships escaped the stellar trap. The rest were destroyed or disabled, floating helplessly in the stars. Deadly embrace. Captain Martinez turned to Zara. With a weary smile, "Your people are safe," she said. "The Vorthons will think twice before returning to this system." As Endeavor limped back toward the Kalari station, Zara realized that everything had changed. The humans had not only saved her people, but had shown her what true courage looked like. Danny and his crewmates had risked everything for strangers and asked for nothing in return. When the evacuation fleet returned home, they found their system forever changed. The humans remained as friends and allies sharing technology and knowledge. Danny became the first human ambassador to the Kalari people. Zara took a position as cultural liaison, working closely with Danny to build bridges between